to the Blackdown Hills in Somerset, and I'm standing in the grounds of Whitestaunton Manor. And at the bottom of these sculptured gardens and the beautiful lawns lies this muddy, overgrown area. And predictably, this is what we're interested in, because underneath that greenery lies a 125-year-old mystery. In 1882, a series of walls, along with fragments of mosaic floor and pottery and coins, were discovered here, and this place was designated a Roman villa. But recently, a young archaeology student has been doing some investigating here, and she reckons the records are all wrong. In fact, so wrong that she thinks this isn't a villa at all. Is she right? And if so, what is this place? As usual, Time Team have got just 3 days to find out. Whitestaunton Manor has been in the possession of just 4 families in the last 800 years. It was during the second family's habitation, the Eltons in the Victorian period, that the ruins at the bottom of the garden were first excavated and recorded as a Roman villa. 25 years ago, the site was classed as a scheduled monument. It would be quite a coup to overthrow such long-held archaeological beliefs, but that's what ex-archaeology student Freya Bowles believes we can do. Why do you think this isn't a Roman villa?
There's just so many things which don't add up. Firstly, the site's so small and restricted, and it doesn't seem to fit any orthodox plan of a typical Roman villa.
But Mick, there ought to be a Roman villa here, shouldn't there? Isn't this part of the great southwest area where there are lots of villas?
Yeah, it's right on the edge of the great collection of villas that you get from the Cotswolds right down through Somerset. But I think Freya's right that the site doesn't look right, really.
What's wrong with it?
Right. Well, it is sort of restricted and boggy and all the rest of it. If I was going to build a villa around here and it's a nice place to live, I'd build it up on the flat platform up at the back there.
So what would you put down here?
Could be a detached bathhouse, that's a possibility, part of a villa estate. It could be a temple.
But whatever it is, we're not going to know till we start digging.
Absolutely, yeah.
Although we know the Victorians excavated a Roman building here, we've no idea how much of it remains. The site's covered with vegetation, and there are layers of tree roots and nettles to cut away. It's extremely waterlogged, so we've dug out the stream bed to lower the water level. To make matters worse, the ruins are a protected ancient monument. This means no mechanical diggers are allowed, and there are limits to trench sizes. We've got some lovely rolling lawns, Phil, but actually we're pretty constrained about where we dig, aren't we?
Too right we are, Tony. I mean, the site itself is very, very small. And within that, we've got a very, very restricted amount of meterage that we can actually dig.
Bob, you're in charge of making those decisions. What are we allowed to dig?
2 small trenches, 4x2, but then on top of that, we can then negotiate a little bit around the edges.
So what percentage of the site would that be?
Maybe 10%.
That's not much, is it, Phil?
That is an incredibly small area. We haven't got any room to make mistakes.
This is the scheduled area, and this is what 10% of it looks like. It's pretty small, but we can divide it however we like, and because the site's been excavated before, we're in the unusual position of having plans of the ruins to help us. We've got this Ordnance Survey map from 1886 and a more recent plan done by Freya. If they're accurate, then deciding where to put our trenches should be a breeze. To help us understand the function of the Roman remains, Stuart's looking for clues in the grounds and surrounding landscape. But before the ruins are even clear of vegetation, Phil's hit something solid.
Oh, look at that.
That's fabulous.
That is wall, isn't it? First time I've ever excavated with a rake, but never mind. Now these must be the Roman walls, mustn't they? You've got a wall coming along there, sweeping along there and returning there. If this is a sample of what we got to look forward to, we're in business.
It's a relief to know the ruins haven't crumbled away, and after just 3 hours, we've revealed these walls. They match our floor plans, so we can get the first trench in.
We want to open up that area over there.
Trench over there.
first,
So
yeah.
how far do you want to go?
Well, almost as far as the wall, I reckon.
So what? From about here,
Okay, then it goes up this hollow up the middle, look.
so it's going to come up here.
That's it, up
Got
as
a-
far as where Bridget is.
Yeah, got a wall that side and a wall that side.
So we want all that hollow area cleared out.
We're putting the first trench in the northeast corner of the site. It'll include what we think is the outer wall of the building.
Yeah, it's going to have to go on that angle.
Trench 1 only takes up a third of our digging allowance, so we've still got room for more excavations. In the incident room, Guy's investigating what kind of building the ruins could be. Guy, can we actually knock on the head the original idea that this place was a villa?
Well, I've been looking at some plans and drawings of villas in this book and here, comparing them with our White Staunton site. Now, if you look at here, these two villas, which are in the area, they're actually quite small villas, but you can see that White Staunton is only a tiny part of that by the same scale. So it can't be a complete Roman villa. So maybe there's another villa nearby, or maybe it's associated with a villa some way off that we don't know about.
OK, so if it's not a villa, what is it?
Well, the other idea that has been that it could be a temple, and I've been comparing it with some temple plans as well. Now, this is the typical sort of Romano-British temple. It's a concentric square based on this idea with a central cellar where you do the worshipping, which is a sort of tower, and an ambulatory around the outside.
But these two have got the same, as has ours.
Yeah, but the problem is you can be misled by the plan. That could be a kind of internal garden, and we've got all these other niches and things around here that make it look far more like a bathhouse.
OK, so it could be a villa, but probably not. Could be a temple, but probably not. But it may be a bathhouse.
That's a possibility.
Our building is located in the southwest, an area of Roman Britain that experienced great prosperity in the 3rd and 4th century. Influenced by classical Roman buildings of the 1st century, the elite poured their wealth into creating their own grand villas and countryside retreats. I wonder how the Romans who lived here would have seen the world around them.
Quite frankly, if they'd been living down in the bottom of that valley, I don't think they'd have seen very much.
Would it have been the back of beyond here?
Well, we're very much on the fringes of known Roman Britain here in many ways. To the northwest, we've got Bath and Cirencester, major Roman centres. But once you get to White Staunton, you're sort of literally on the edge, the known and the unknown.
Bit of a frontier.
It is actually, yeah, you're right.
The main concentration of Roman villas in the southwest of England is spread around the major Roman road, the Fosse Way. But its closest tributary is still 6 kilometres from White Staunton. Where would the nearest villas have been?
Nearest we know about is just down here at Wayford, which is about 3 kilometres away from this site.
It's quite a long way to go to borrow a cup of honey. To help us understand the site, Mick's called in one of the leading villa experts in the country, David Neal.
So we've got an isolated building down there.
Yep.
The nearest other villa's 3 kilometres away, and the nearest Roman road 6 kilometres away. This thing wouldn't have existed in isolation, would it?
It definitely would have been associated with a dwelling house of some kind. So
Right.
where that is, of course, that's what we've got to find out. But a possibility is in the area of the present house.
Right. You've had a look round. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, certainly this is a possible candidate. I
Yeah,
can't disagree with that. I'm slightly nervous of its geography here. It's a very narrow little valley here. But if you look up on those slopes up there are some earthworks up there.
Yeah.
And there are some slopes just up to the north of where you're digging at the moment,
Right.
which have got some earthworks on as well. So I think we ought to bear in mind there might be other possibilities,
Right.
but here's a good place to start looking.
Well, we should wait for the geophys here, but there's always the possibility we were standing on it, in fact. It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Very nice.
Now we've got a villa to find, our 3 days just got busier. So John wastes no time getting geophysics started on the grounds around the manor house. Over the years, the past owners of White Staunton Manor have collected a vast range of finds from the ruins, and I'm hoping they'll tell us something about the building and the people who lived in it. Michael, this is such a beautiful place. How long have you been here?
I came here in 1946. My father bought it when he came out of the RAF, and I came here as a teenager.
And this is the stuff that your family have found on the side. I'm a little bit disappointed, I have to say. I was expecting to find brooches and stuff.
It's good Roman stuff. I mean, there's a nice, complete Roman central heating flue tile, some bits of several others, and a Roman roof tile. We've also got some bits of local Roman pottery and a nice piece of opus signinum.
Oh, is that like the concrete that they
That's
used to
right,
use?
a good solid kitchen floor type material, or also in bathhouses. We've also got this lovely Roman column, and that's an absolutely classic example of a Roman column made of limestone from the Cotswold area. So I suppose perhaps our owner imported it down here.
This stuff is in much better nick, isn't it?
This is the material from the original excavations. It's now stored in the Somerset County Museum in Taunton. And yeah, it's lovely, big, well-preserved sherds, isn't it?
So what does it tell us about the people who lived here?
Well, it's a bit confusing, really. We've got material from all over. We have pottery from France, which we might expect to be imported, but we also have a piece from, well, made near Peterborough. We have material made on the Hampshire-Surrey borders, Wareham Pool Harbour in Dorset, as well as much more local wares.
Would you expect to find such a wide variety of things on a site like this?
On a site in Somerset, no, I wouldn't. This is much closer to the material I would normally expect to find.
It's pretty monochrome, isn't it?
It certainly is. All coarse cookingware vessels, really.
So could this be someone who was pretty wealthy and so was able to import a lot of different things?
Well, that's one possible interpretation, and certainly people could get pottery from all over the place, but to my mind, it's a bit like a collection of representative sherds, you know, good choice ones. And my eyes were immediately caught by this because it's made near where I live in the East Midlands. And it is fairly widespread, but not all the way over here.
Why would such a disparate range of pottery be used in one building? It's baffling. But things are getting even more confusing in the ruins. In Trench 1, Phil's come down onto a floor, but David doesn't think it's Roman.
Look, you see this stuff here? It looks like sort of a concrete.
Well, it is concrete, isn't it? It's not the usual what we call opus igninum.
So how do you know it's not opus igninum?
Well, there doesn't seem to be enough crushed tile in it. It seems to be an aggregate of lime, mortar, sand and concrete. Very little tiny bits of brick.
Because it's usually that sort of pinky colour,
That's
isn't
right,
it?
and this isn't very pinky, as you can see. It's much more, you know, like ordinary sandy concrete.
And it's looking very wet, David.
Yes, there seems to be a culvert or stream coming through the other side of this wall, and we assume that it's running underneath at this point. I find it difficult to imagine why the Romans should build a bath suite over a stream like this.
This site's turning into a puzzle. We know it's not a villa, but it's not an obvious shape for anything else. The finds come from all over the country, and now it looks like the floor isn't even Roman. With such conflicting evidence, we can't take anything at face value. In fact, the only reason we believe the building's Roman is because of the records kept by Charles Isaac Elton, who owned the manor house when the ruins were excavated in 1882. In his account, he describes finding beautiful mosaics, columns and solid Roman foundations. There's no mention of any of the inconsistencies we've found. Is it possible he misinterpreted what he saw? As digging continues, it's looking more and more likely.
There you go. That's right by the foundation. And that ain't Roman.
No, that's not even Roman, lead glazed. It is medieval. It's a jug.
Doesn't help the Roman wall theory, does it?
No.
An authentic Roman wall couldn't have medieval pottery made 600 years after the Romans left Britain stuffed underneath it. It's getting more and more perplexing, isn't it? It now seems it's not a villa, it's not a temple. Phil doesn't think it's a bathhouse, so what on earth is it?
Well, I mean, look at the wall. Some of the stone looks good enough to be Roman, but it's not symmetrical, it's all a bit wonky. No Roman would build a wall like that, but it's still genuine Roman tile.
What's going on, Mick?
Well, there's Roman material in it, so clearly there must be a Roman structure somewhere in this vicinity.
Yeah.
But it looks as if this is an enhanced structure, or even worse, it might be a folly, just using Roman materials.
So it's not Roman at all?
Well, it's beginning to look like that, isn't it?
We've come all this way to dig a Roman villa and it's just a folly or something?
It's just got Roman material in, it's been made into a garden feature.
How do we find out what's going on?
Well, I think we've got to carry on digging because the Roman structure might be underneath here, but we've also got to look in the immediate vicinity for a likely other Roman villa site that they might have pillaged.
So is part of this building fake? Is it all fake? If it is, how come we've got all these apparently authentic finds? We've no idea. Let's hope we find out tomorrow. Yesterday morning, we came to Whitestaunton in Somerset to investigate a scheduled Roman villa excavated in 1882. Yesterday afternoon, we determined that the stones of the ruin were Roman, but the Romans hadn't put them there. It looked like we'd come all this way to discover the whole site was built by Victorians as a garden folly. But this morning, underneath what we thought was Victorian concrete, there's yet another twist in the tale. Phil, what have we got?
Well, we've got the whole trench and it's absolutely covered in the most enormous slabs of stone, which we think actually might be Roman.
Hang on, how can these slabs be Roman, David, when yesterday afternoon you said that that pinkish stuff there wasn't Roman but was probably modern?
I was wrong.
Oh, fair enough.
And I'm pretty certain that we are looking at the genuine Roman floor, the opposite line of the floor, with these huge blocks.
OK, Phil, they may be Roman blocks, but how can we prove that the Romans put them here?
The answer really lies down there, Tony. That big pool of water. If we can show that the layers carry on down, then that's a fairly good bet that it's going to be Roman. If it just is a raft of big stones, then it could still be Victorian.
Well, while David and Phil are trying to solve that little problem, Bridget's opened a vast trench over here. Bridget, it's a heck of a trench you're putting in here. Why have you opened it up?
We've opened it up to find any conclusive evidence that the Romans were here, and if they were here, what were they doing here? We've got Phil's trench number 1 here in orange.
Yeah.
We've now moved and put in a trench over this area here, which is based on Freya's plan.
Freya, you getting your hands dirty?
I sure am.
Were you a bit disappointed yesterday when you discovered that we got a Victorian folly?
I guess I was slightly disappointed.
But we've agreed with your theory that this isn't a Roman villa.
Oh, absolutely, that was the main thing.
If you could dig anywhere on this site, in the best of all possible worlds, where would you dig?
For me, the important part would be this centre here. If we establish whether this is actually a bath or part of a room, we might have further clues to the function of the actual building.
Bridget, is there any reason why we shouldn't explore down there?
I think it's a pretty damn good idea that Freya opened that in here, because I certainly don't want to get in a boggy mess.
The boggy area's all yours.
Great.
Freya's muddy hole will have to wait. Because of our restricted digging allowance, we're being extremely picky about where we put our trenches. At the moment, we're concentrating on trying to find Roman foundations in Phil's trench and getting started on Bridget's trench that extends from the centre of the site out towards its eastern edge, taking in this semicircular feature. Although we now think the floor is Roman, we still have to decipher what the Victorians were doing building on top of it. But whatever's going on, we believe the ruins are associated with a nearby villa, and Geophysics spent yesterday hunting for it around the manor house.
You've managed to get quite a big area done around these gardens, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've done all the lawned areas now.
Yeah.
This side of the house and extending right beyond the other side. And look, there's a sort of an arrangement of things we could go for.
Yeah.
We've got this sort of anomaly here, and that actually goes, here it is, with this parch mark.
Well, yeah, I noticed this. I just assumed it was a garden wall or something coming through.
I think we ought to dig it just to see. But
yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah, well, there's a huge area. What, over there?
This big rectangular block.
What does that suggest to you, that big area?
Solid floor, whether it's garden, whether it's earlier structure. But given its sort of rectilinear shape, I think it's worth investigating as well. But my best responses are actually on the far side.
On the big terrace at the back, yeah?
I'd have said that's our best bet for villa walls.
Presumably we're not talking about something very big to sort any of those out, are we?
No, 3 by 1 in each case.
Well, let's do them all then, because that's not a big job, is it? Strip the turf off and have a look.
Trenches 3, 4 and 5 go in on the lawns around the manor house. Back in the ruins, the stream running underneath Trench 1 is slowing down the excavation. The but at last Phil and David can see through to the floor's foundations. They're definitely Roman, and that's not all.
Well, I think we've got the bottom of this stone column, this pier here at this point, Phil.
You've got the bottom on that side?
Yes, because look, you've got that piece of box tile actually used as packing underneath it. There,
well,
you see.
Well, we've got the bottom of this slab on this side as well.
Yeah. So we've got this. So we've got this like a flue running through here, haven't we?
Well, you said call it a flue. Does that mean to say you think it is a hypocaust?
I think it is. It's a shallow one, very shallow one, but bearing in mind the amount of water around, perhaps that's all they felt they could cope with.
So what you're suggesting then is that wherever you get 4 slabs like this meeting together, like there and there,
that's right.
You've actually got a stone pillar
That's
underneath,
right. These stone piers
separating a series of flues.
Absolutely. So I'm quite happy to call it a hypocaust. Extraordinary situation, bearing in mind all this water, but presumably the water management in those days was much, much better. So it was drier.
A hypocaust is an underfloor heating system used widely by the Romans. The floor in Trench 1 is resting on a series of pillars. Convection currents draw the warm air from a fire around these pillars and up through flues built into the walls of a room, making it warm. A hypocaust wouldn't work with a stream running through it, but Stuart's convinced that although the area's wet and boggy today, it was once dry. Stuart, our Roman building is in the lowest point of the whole site, so it would always have been filling up with water, surely?
Well, although it's the lowest point now, it's not necessarily going to be in the lowest point during the Roman period because of all the changes that have potentially taken place in this valley. The garden landscaping, the creation of the later ponds and so on. In the Roman period, it's possible the springs were up here on this side and actually flow in that direction. Although we're looking now that the position of the building, its siting, might have been influenced by the water, we shouldn't think that way. It might not have influenced the layout of that structure at all.
So it looks like the Romans who built the ruins weren't balmy after all. In fact, Roman engineering was very advanced, and we've decided to put it to the test by making our own working model of a hypocaust.
What are we actually doing?
Well, we are going to. It's a small-scale model. It's of a typical hypocaust.
But we're not trying to replicate a Roman structure because we're using modern materials, aren't we?
That's right. You've got to select the most appropriate materials, the bricks, the tiles, and so on to suit. But the principles are the same: hot air flue, and rising, going through underneath the suspended floor, heating the floor, and then rising through the flues, which would have been embedded in the walls. Hopefully, this will show how we create heat, how we use it, and how we get a warm floor.
Right.
That's the objective.
Well, I think it's a bold experiment. But
yes.
So let's see how we get on.
It is, yes.
We've dug a metre-deep hole and are laying the bricks and tiles for the furnace and pillars. A Roman hypocaust could take months to build, and in 2 days we don't have time to build a whole room, so we're aiming for a hot floor. The owner of the manor house has been incredibly relaxed as we've dug up chunks of his grounds, and I've just found out why. Michael, I hadn't realised that you were selling the property.
Yes, it's sad, isn't it?
It's going to be a wrench, isn't it?
Yes, I've been here about 60 years.
He's worked a number on you though, hasn't he, Stuart?
Yeah, he certainly has, but what a number, wonderful.
You bought what you thought was going to be a nice, quiet place, the lawn's ripped up, and what you thought was a Roman villa turned out to have a Victorian folly stuck on it.
It does, and we were scared to death the first day thinking it might just be that, and it turned out to be the most wonderful Roman ruin.
So how do you feel about it now?
It's really quite emotional. Imagine somebody decided 1700 years ago that White Staunton was the place to live, and we've just made the same decision 1700 years later. It's quite a long-term connection, isn't it?
Despite the owner's generosity with their gardens, we've drawn a blank on the front lawns. We've abandoned Trench 3 because the features Geophysics identified turned out to be geological. The parch mark in Trench 4 turned up yet more Victoriana, this time a garden wall. Trench 5 is our last hope of turning up a villa in the grounds around the manor house. But nothing Roman's turned up yet. We've been far more successful with our trenches in the ruins.
We've got a terrific range of finds here, but do they really help us sort out what's going on the site?
Straight answer is no. In anything, they've complicated it hugely.
Oh,
we know we've got a genuine Roman building there, no doubt about that. The trouble is that a lot of what we found above that and around it doesn't seem to go with it. We've got all these lovely hypocaust heating tiles, but the problem straight away is, if you see the keying on here for securing them to the walls, they're all different. When you build a Roman building, you hire a tile manufacturer to come along. He will build a kiln fairly nearby and produce a batch of tiles.
So you get a uniform collection, in fact.
Very similar sort of thing. Right. The fabrics are different as well, so I don't believe these have all come from this one building.
So it's very odd. Clearly there is a Roman site there, and some of this must relate to that. Yep. And clearly there's been a later folly built, and some of this relates to that. But for the Roman site itself, it's still not making a lot of sense, is it?
No, it's just got curiouser and curiouser.
To try to unravel all the contradictions, Guy's teamed up with buildings historian Jonathan Foyle. And together, they're delving into the records of the 1882 excavation.
Whether it's open or closed is a matter.
Hi there. What do we know about these 19th century excavations on the site?
We have got Charles Elton's original account of the excavations.
Right.
Now, he does describe an atrium or inner court, he says, which was probably roofed in against the inclement weather of the land of clouds and rain.
There seems to be precious little documentation, an awful lot of character, doesn't there? Personality coming out in this.
And he didn't even do the excavations.
Oh, who did then?
Well, I believe it was a fellow called Major David.
Ah, the guy who cleared the baths at Roman Bath, yeah. Sure. He was a bit dodgy, wasn't he?
Well, probably not by the standards of his day, but he didn't seem to keep particular records, and he doesn't seem to have kept any records at all of the excavation.
How much of Elton's report is fact is hard to say. But we do know that authentic Roman materials from all over the country have been used within the ruins to create Romanesque building features. So it seems likely that Elton used finds from far and wide to dress up the ruins and slap the whole pick and mix together with telltale Victorian concrete.
Is it actually easy to sort out the Victorian stuff that's going on here, or is it a real problem?
It's a problem, but you just got to be aware of it.
Yeah,
you can't take anything at face value, because these tiles, they are real Roman tiles, except in that they're stuck together with Victorian mortar.
Now we understand how to interpret the ruins, we're clearing away the mud from the walls to find out which of them were laid down by Victorians and which by Romans. Throughout the afternoon, Bridget's Trench has been coughing up lots of loose tesserae. They're Roman, but we can't be sure who put them there. But the good news is that with most of the mud gone, the floor plan is really coming through, and we should be getting closer to working out what the building is. Now, if we could just find a villa. Matt, how are you getting on here?
Well, all the finds from this trench so far have been 18th and 19th century domestic stuff.
So you've only got about another 1,500 years to go and you'll look Roman.
A while to go. We do have this flint feature going across here, though. You can see compacted flints there, and then this side's just blank, but no evidence for it being Roman yet.
So it looks like there are no Roman features in the lawns around the manor house, except, of course, for the hypercaust we've been building. With the pillars in place, the floor's going on.
So this is it?
Not quite. Very close, though.
There's the business end, then.
That's right, that's where we light the fire. Can you see the pillars?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, that's exactly what we've been finding down the bottom.
That's right.
That is brilliant.
We've enjoyed making it.
So that stokehold would be enough to fire up one villa, do you reckon?
Well,
or several rooms.
Several rooms.
I'm sending up a smoke signal.
The Romans would have taken days to heat a room from cold, so to give us a chance of warming the 12-centimetre thick concrete floor, we'll be stoking our hypercaust's fire overnight. Before we can call it a day, we need to find out if Trench 2 has cleared up any of the confusion in the ruins.
David, have we got any Roman walls that go with those good Roman floors over there?
Oh, definitely. For example, here we've got the remains of a Roman wall, but of course these foundations have been used, and all the Victorian walls have been built directly on top. But there's certainly a genuine wall running through. It's running through here and then turning. And what is more, we've got the remains of a tessellated pavement. Here, the tesserae here, and the remains running through
here.
here.
I can see a little row of four or
right.
five of them there.
And these are examples of the tesserae, or cubes, of the mosaic.
So we've got white, blue and red ones in there.
And quite a fine mosaic. They're quite small tesserae.
OK, we now know that it's genuinely Roman, but how do we find out what sort of building it is?
Well, I think the key lies in this area behind you. We need to understand exactly what this is and to follow these walls that seem to be running through here.
Yeah.
You can see the wall continuing through and how they relate to this morass behind you.
Possibly with mosaic on the floor?
Originally, yes.
So the key to understanding this whole site tomorrow lies in here. But are we going to be able to dig enough trenches to find out exactly what it is? Will we be able to stop the water coming in? You can see the state I'm in already. Will the weather hold? Join us after the break. Beginning of day 3 here at White Staunton in Somerset, and at last we've proved we've got a Roman building here. And this morning our archaeologists came up with some really intriguing finds. What have you got, David?
Well, we've got this wall running through, but associated with that wall with large numbers of tesserae underneath this water, which are running through underneath this mud. Clearly these tesserae are paving a floor of something of high status, and we need to establish exactly what it is.
OK, we know it's high status and we're sure it's not a villa. So what is it? We've got about 7.5 hours left to find out. The key to the ruins may be under the mud, but the Roman villa we believe it's associated with doesn't seem to be buried anywhere. We've drawn a complete blank digging around the house, and with less than a day left, the pressure to come up with a new plan is mounting.
Oh, that's good. Where's that then?
These are water pipes in the car park.
Oh, right. So you've carried on looking in the areas around, have you?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone beyond the lawns now.
Right.
Stuart's given us 2 or 3 fields to look at, and to be honest, we're not finding a lot.
No, I feel quite concerned about this because we seem to be looking for the context of this in the air around and not actually
all we've done is
hitting this, isn't it?
All we've done is dig here and further away.
Yeah.
I feel that any Roman villa, if there was one, would have been part of this structure, connected to it, or very close by.
That's my feeling. We've done a lot of work in the scheduled area, and we've done a lot of work in the surroundings looking for a contemporary building. What we haven't done is look immediately adjacent outside the scheduled area.
Yeah, but there's not a lot we can do for you.
Well, I appreciate that, John, because I mean there's a hell of a lot of trees all around this site and you won't be able to get under there, will you?
Yeah.
But there's no reason why we couldn't dig a trench and just see if walls are heading off in that direction.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's the only way we're going to find out, isn't it?
To find out if our ruins are attached to a villa building, we're putting in Trench 6 adjacent to the ruins. This ground falls outside the scheduled area, so there are no restrictions to digging. I've been doing some digging of my own, and I've got a surprise for Mick. I've got something for you.
Yeah, what's that?
Do you remember a day 28 years ago when you were young, dark-haired Mick Aston, county archaeologist for Somerset, and you wrote this letter to the Ancient Monuments Inspectorate, which says, there's this site that I would like you to visit and examine as a matter of urgency in order to have it listed. You were responsible for having this site listed.
Scheduled as an ancient monument?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. Do you not remember coming here?
I do remember coming here because I think I've got a slide at home, which is very dark under the trees with lots of moss and so on. So I know that I came here, but no, I mean, I don't remember writing that.
Do you think when you first came here you would have realised quite how complicated the archaeology was?
Oh, no. I mean, I would have just assumed what we were looking at was Roman.
So this whole site might have completely disappeared if it hadn't been for this man and this letter, and he can't even remember it.
There's been a lot of wine flowed since then, Tone.
Both David and Freya believe we'll only understand what the building is if we excavate the square feature in the centre of the ruins. So Phil's leaving the hypercaust in Trench 1 and starting Trench 7 over here.
We appear to be pretty much on the limit. What we can't afford is a big area strip.
No, I think you're right.
Because of our limited digging allowance, this is going to have to be our final trench within the ruins, so the success of our entire excavation depends on us finding some answers under the mud. This site's been completely transformed since we first got here, and it's incredibly difficult to work in. These duck boards are really, really like ice, and the actual mud is really claggy. It's hard to see how you can find any archaeology at all in this kind of stuff. If there's anything that would put you off working as an archaeologist, it would be spending a few hours here. Even so, Phil, you have managed to find a few things this morning, haven't you?
We have actually, even some very small things. This is our real star find. It actually tells us that the building had painted walls.
What is this?
It's a piece of painted wall plaster. You can imagine just how vivid the building would have been with walls like that.
It isn't one of the biggest finds you've ever had, though, is it?
No, but it is so informative. And of course, look, we've got some more tesserae as well.
So this is a good site?
It is absolutely a cracking site, Tony.
Phil's piece of wall plaster is even more informative than he realises. It's exactly the same colour as the walls that Charles Elton reported finding in the 1882 excavation. But how reliable is his account? I've not seen either of you two on site this morning. Have you managed to get anywhere on the bloke who discovered this place?
Found out quite a bit. Do you want to know what he looked like?
Yeah.
Tracked down this picture of him.
Oh,
Done
you're
in
kidding.
No, I did. 1887. This was published, so just a few years after the place was excavated. Quite a fellow, isn't he?
Isn't he just? What sort of bloke was he?
Well, he was a lawyer, he was an antiquary, he was an MP.
Would he have known much about archaeology?
Definitely, it was certainly one of his major interests. He knew his classical sources like the back of his hand. He knew Latin and Greek. He was an extraordinarily well-read man, very highly educated.
But if he knew about classics and archaeology and stuff, how come when he describes this ruin, he got it all so awry?
Well, I've been going through his description carefully, and it may yet match the site. It doesn't seem to at first.
Jonathan's drawn a floor plan based on Elton's description.
Let me explain. He mentions there is an atrium. He says that there are the remains of columns found in there. There's an arch on the back of it, as he sees it, which leads into 3 rooms, one of which has an apse that he thinks may be a sacrarium, a place of domestic worship. He's much vaguer about the areas to the west that he says are kitchen and furnace, and then the hot baths, which are way over, probably double the area of the present site we're on.
So we've got Freya's plan here, which is just this bit.
That's just the eastern half of the site.
We're digging here, but Jonathan believes that Elton's describing rooms that extend over here. If that's correct, then our ruins could form part of a larger villa almost twice the size of our present site. Trench 6 has exposed yet more Victorian garden features, so with Elton's account as our guide, we open up Trench 8 to the west of the scheduled area. Within the ruins, most of the mud's gone, so it's the moment of truth for Trench 7. David, time's really getting on now. Are we anywhere near working out what this building actually is?
Well, I'm absolutely certain it's a bathhouse.
Why do you say it's a bathhouse?
Well, mainly because you've got the range of heated rooms over there, and you've got an ambulatory around here, and what is really exciting is that this ambulatory is surrounding a very large plunge bath or swimming pool.
So where's the pool? Does it start here?
It's where this puddle is. This is the corner.
Yeah.
These are, in fact, the steps going down into it.
Oh, right.
And the floor of the pool, which is about 9 by 5 metres, was tesserated, but alas, you can't see many of them. They're there.
So that explains why all these tesserae were on the floor?
Absolutely, and there's so many of them. And what is more, we can find that they're running through, and we're finding them running through here, and here's some more of this opsignum. Here are the tesserae here.
Is this particularly unusual?
There are only about 6 examples of plunge baths of this size in Britain. It's a very important building indeed. It's really very exciting structure.
The swimming pool in our bathhouse is large, measuring 9 by 5 metres wide and an estimated ½ a metre deep. The presence of mosaics running along its edge date it to the 3rd or 4th century. Now we've got the central piece of the puzzle, the rest of the site's falling into place. The semicircular feature Bridget's been excavating in Trench 2 is actually a cold plunge pool. The Romans would use it to cool off in, after getting sweaty in the steam room heated by the hypocaust. Still eluding us is the location of the villa we believe the bathhouse is attached to. Rachel and Stuart have found something in Trench 8.
Have you found the villa?
No, I haven't found the villa. We've got a modern pipe trench, but we think we're probably on the Victorian spoil heaps from the original excavations.
How do you know that?
Well,
Look, Phil, we got this lot. Bits of Roman tile again, opus signinum concrete, wall plaster,
and a Victorian button off of a chap.
With no evidence of the buildings Elton described, is it possible that the bathhouse is a standalone structure?
Well, if it's a villa standard bathhouse, then where's the villa?
Well, I don't think it's here. We've looked all around this area in the places there could be a villa.
Yeah.
We found absolutely nothing at all.
There are instances of quite elaborate remote bathhouses with no living accommodation attached to them, like that place Whitley Grange in Shropshire. Now, there is no villa to go with that. No one's ever found it.
No, but you do have some fairly large rooms associated with that building.
Yeah, but there's still no house, is there?
Well, no, but that doesn't mean to say there isn't a house fairly close by.
The areas it can be close by are actually quite restricted here because it's a very steep valley, and if you want access to it, you've got to make it practical for yourself. But there's another matter here as well, David, is if you look in the landscape roundabout and the records, there's lots of evidence of ironworking in this area. There's an industry going on here in the Roman period. I would suggest that what you've got is a detached building here which services a wider community.
The number of villas and facilities of this status which are associated with industrial activity in Britain can be recorded on the fingers of one hand. I still maintain that associated with a building like this has to be a dwelling house, has to be facilities for eating, cooking.
But that's not necessarily a villa though, is it?
Well, nevertheless,
it's just a facility on the site.
It's a facility, but nevertheless we've got to still need to find it.
But where is there left to look? We've dug in the lawns behind the house and next to the house. We've walked the surrounding hillsides and turned up nothing. One place we haven't looked is the bumpy field next to the manor house. Both Mick and Stuart think it's full of garden terracing, but John's determined to prove them wrong. Could it really contain the villa? We don't have much time left to find out. The clock's also ticking on our hypercaust experiment. It's been burning through the night and has just a few more hours to go before we test its floor. What do you want then?
Look, I know I've had to drag you out of the trenches, but I promise you it's worth it. You know that we were blaming Charles Isaac Elton, the chap who found this, for turning it into a Victorian folly?
This guy, yes.
Yeah. He's not guilty after all. He spent a fortune of money on books. That was really all he was interested in. The one thing he wasn't interested in was the house and its garden. He let the whole thing get run down.
That really helps me because I've never been able to understand why this man, who was a noted antiquarian, would mess up the Roman building.
Absolutely, and I've had that problem from the outset. Working through the family records, what I find out is that when he died, his half-brother inherited the place, found it all run down, spent a fortune on the house and gardens, but to do that he had to sell off most of the farmland to do it. So he was busy pouring money into sorting the house out, turning the garden into the nice dinky place it is today. It must have been him who was responsible for making the folly.
So when do you think he did this?
Between 1900 and about 1920.
So it's not a Victorian folly after all?
No.
It's an Edwardian one?
Yeah.
If Guy's theory is correct, and it was Frederick Elton who modified the ruins, it's likely that along with the Roman material he found on the site, he used Charles Elton's extensive collection of Roman artefacts to create the folly. This would explain why such a strange assortment of finds has come out of the ruins. It's 4:45, and just when I thought I'd got everything done and dusted down there, suddenly there's this frenzy of activity up here. John, why are we digging about 70 metres away from where our bath is?
Something to do with geophysics?
What to do with geophysics?
Well, look, you know we're looking for the villa that
Yeah.
goes with the bathhouse. Well, look at these results. Could that be a massive Roman building? Just on this slope here. It's a fantastic position for a villa. Look at the view it's got. The view that way, it's close to the bathhouse, swimming pool, whatever they're calling it. It could be a building. We've got to go for it. Mick won't mind.
Sure about that?
Well, I hope. Oh, God.
Having turned up 3 Victorian garden walls in the last 3 days, John's making a last attempt to redeem himself. And over in the orchard, it's finally time to test our Roman hypocaust.
So has this worked, Bob?
Oh, yes. Yes, you've got a nice hot floor there.
When you say hot, how hot?
Ooh.
I think we're about to find out.
Give it a try.
That's the equivalent of dipping the toe in, Phil. I don't want to burn myself.
Have you been on hot tiles before?
Well, look, it must be all right. There's no smoke coming off your socks. Oh, yeah, that's good, isn't it? Yeah. It is, isn't it? I want one for the winter.
OK.
It's really quite warm, isn't it? It is, it is. Have you actually learnt anything from this?
If I was asked to do this again, I'd have the confidence to certainly make it bigger. I think that size furnace could do a hypocaust probably 4 times the area of this, possibly 6.
It's such an effective form of heating that a fire the size of ours could warm a floor this big. But things aren't so hot up on the hillside.
That's not looking very villa-like.
No. We've got the machine in 6 inches of topsoil, if that, and straight down onto this natural chert. So, yep, it's all geological.
Well, we had to look at it.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, we couldn't ignore the possibility that it might have been a structure. Couldn't walk away.
Absolutely. It's time to walk away now, though.
We believe there is a villa around here, but it must be hidden somewhere we couldn't dig. A possible location is under the manor house. However, even if it fitted entirely underneath it, we'd expect to have discovered something Roman in the trenches we opened in the grounds. It could also be in the churchyard, or under the garden pond, or even in the woodland at the bottom of the garden. We have solved the mystery of the ruins, proving that the supposed Roman villa is in fact a bathhouse. Right, I want a bath. What would I do?
Well, you'd have to get undressed in the room over there.
What, this one here?
That's it, go in there.
Okay,
get
so
stripped off.
I come out of
That's right.
here.
And then you come into the hot room.
With presumably water probably gushing out of
Gushing
here.
up, that's a cold
And the hot
plunge
room
bath.
is where?
That's where the hypocaust is.
Okay, in here. Sweat,
then
sweat,
you cool
sweat.
down a bit into the tepid room.
Back to here.
And then you go into, take a cold plunge bath where Bridget is.
Right up there, yeah.
And if you were feeling really brave, you'd come through towards where I'm standing and have a swim in this cold, very
I'd go down those steps, but I'm not going to go down those. I don't want to mess up the archaeology.
That's right.
And I could swim.
And you could swim here, and you could then come through. And if you're feeling a bit tired by now, and then if you're really tired after falling in the mud, you could sit on a bench that ran along the wall there where Kerry is now.
It's a lovely mosaic down there.
That's right.
At last we've got something intact.
Very nice tessellated pavement, and that of course covered the whole floor.
Good 3 days?
Very good 3 days, very exciting and most interesting site.
We estimate at least half of the ruins were built in the Edwardian period from relocated Roman stones. This is how much of the Roman structure is left underneath. Out here in the extreme southwest of Roman Britain, our bathhouse would almost certainly have been associated with a villa on the fringes of civilization. With beautifully painted walls, fine-coloured mosaic floors and its large central swimming pool, the bathhouse would have been a place of indulgence and comfort, a welcome refuge from living on a frontier. I don't think we've ever dug a site before where we've had genuine Roman archaeology side by side with creative Edwardian reconstruction, but sorting out this little concoction has been the big challenge over the last 3 days. No villa, but I'm glad to say that the end result of our Battle of the Bog has been this. One of only 6 in the country, a genuine mosaic-lined Roman bathing pool.